Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO and co-founder Skyscanner, Gareth Williams, for a discussion with Skift executive editor Dennis Schall.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. Great to be here. So I've interviewed Gareth several times before, never on stage, and he's the technology guy and an entrepreneur. And normally, if I would ask him what's going on, his stock answer would be, we've got our heads down, we're executing on our plan, business as usual. But there's so much going on in the world today, both with Skyscanner and in general in the world today, that I'm expecting some different answers.
Well, maybe that's why I'm not often on stage, but I'll try not to do that.
So could I just ask you a quick question about Brexit?
Sure.
You guys are, you're headquartered in Scotland. You have offices all over in Europe. So both from an operational standpoint, in terms of recruiting employees, and on the business side, in terms of consumer demand, how do you see that playing out, and what are the challenges for you?
It's got to be a negative. I think right now we actually see people interested in jobs with us from California, for instance, because of the turmoil there in certain respects. And to have an aspect of that ourselves is unfortunate. So it's not an ideal thing for a growing company.
Right. And what about in terms of travel demand and that sort of thing?
Well, that's, more, I think, as Bjorn was saying earlier, that all ebbs and flows, and I'm less worried about that aspect in relation to Brexit.
So, a little thing happened late last year. C-Trip acquired Skyscanner, which was founded in 2003. It's been a long haul. These have to be exciting times. And you came out with a white paper recently, which I found fascinating, about the future of Metasearch. And in it, I'll let you describe what your vision is, but you said that you envision Skyscanner, Metasearch has always been about links to online travel agency sites and to airline sites. But you envision Skyscanner doing a lot more facilitated booking and doing it in a way that resembles, in some ways, the look and feel of airline sites. And you also likened it to Alibaba's Tmall. So tell us a little bit more about that and what you're thinking.
So I think essentially we're in the business of providing a two-sided marketplace. In online travel, there's this weird terminology around like online travel agent and Metasearch and that sort of thing. Metasearch is really a hack to get over the fact that it used to be, at least, arguably still is, very difficult for startups to work with GDSs and airlines. And really, 10 years ago, if you wanted to start a travel company, you then said either, you wear jeans and you start Metasearch, or if you like wearing a suit, you'd start an online travel agent. And so, you compromise, essentially. But the essence of where we're trying to get to is a full two-sided marketplace. And that's what many people achieve outside where there's a pre-internet generation of technologies that are still very much at play. And that's where we want to get to. The thing on top of that, so that means booking in the experience on the mobile phone, is just a normal expected part of that. And the thing on top of that is something that I think will happen more and more, which is the Chinese consumer will be seen as a leading indicator of what the rest of the world will demand. The Chinese consumer isn't going to bother with credit cards. There are far more convenient things to do, ways to pay than that. And that is across the board. Many people think they're an outlier in terms of their behaviors, but I don't believe that. And Alibaba's Tmall is there to give prominence to brands that are doing more than selling paper clips. And it is our intention to stand on the shoulders of giants in that respect. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No. So in terms of, the way I read the paper, so a consumer would go to Skyscanner to book a particular airline on their mobile phone, and the user interface would resemble that airline site. And then if they booked a different airline, it would resemble another airline site. Isn't that going to be really confusing for the consumer?
No, because you get a common search experience. If you go to Alibaba, Tmall, and say, I'm looking for a phone, you'll get a common search experience. If you go say, I'm looking for an iPhone, then you'll get an experience that reflects more of what, looks more like apple.cn, for instance.
So are airlines clamoring for this? Or is this something that they are driving, or is this a way that you see that you can more insert yourself into the flight booking process?
No, I mean, I think the origin, sort of allude to it in the paper, but was, I think, my moment of greatest business embarrassment that I can remember right now anyway, is an airline's CEO saying to me, and where, Gareth, on your site can you tell that we spent $7 billion on new airplanes? And that was quite cutting because I've got a lot of respect for the huge amount of effort it takes to run an airline compared to tapping on a keyboard. So that was really the genesis of saying, because I do fundamentally believe that we have to have a two-sided marketplace. I'd like us to be, to have the market share that Ctrip has in China worldwide. I'd like it to be us, but the world does need that marketplace in order to answer travel questions. So, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about Ctrip. And you talked about Chinese travelers being the leading indicator. What is it like to work with Ctrip now? What does it mean for your company?
So mostly it hasn't changed, which is good. I mean, that's how we designed the deal, and that was one of the attractions. Now, there's certain areas that we're working on together that I think will give us, will be really beneficial for travelers, and so looking forward to seeing those come to light, and that would be in future roadmap. I think the biggest thing we've got to work on is not losing sight of, it's actually getting harder and harder to grow at sort of 30, 40, 50% users year on year, each year, and higher. And so there weren't many people sitting around beforehand. So fitting in new projects in a planned and structured way is the essence of what we've been doing since the beginning of January. And they're mainly around flights and hotels.
Do you see Skyscanner, because of your relationship with Ctrip, pivoting in some way in terms of having more of a focus on Chinese travelers, which is what Ctrip really is all about?
No, I think because Ctrip and Tunar do such a brilliant job for the Chinese traveler. I think what we can do is be a gateway of European, American, rest of world airlines to the Chinese outbound traveler. So that's definitely one area. But otherwise, I think it's about what are the ways in which we can succeed globally as Ctrip have done in China.
When the acquisition was announced, there was a lot of talk that Ctrip was going to turn you into a booking site, that this would be a way for them to increase their points of sale, in markets where you are that they aren't. What about that?
I think that comes back to a online travel agent dependent on a GDS and a Metasearch dependent on the clunky behavior of click-out, especially on mobile. They are both subsets of a two-sided marketplace. And our goal is to have the best features of two-sided marketplaces, which is full coverage, booking experience in the flow, presenting the brand of what is expensive purchases in a good way. Now, that isn't, I don't think, at all contradicting the way that Ctrip have done things. But that doesn't mean we're becoming an OTA at all.
Okay. I interviewed Ctrip CEO Jane Sun a few weeks ago, and she made it seem as though there would not be a commitment to provide, to give you a massive amount of new marketing funding or anything like that. So is that disappointing to you, or what's the plan?
I'm not sure I'd be highly skilled in knowing how to deploy huge sums of money other than to hire thousands of software engineers. So I think the history of the company has been one which I think is quite unusual in online travel, which has been to prefer to hire people rather than make Google rich.
That's really interesting. We were talking about it in the green room before. You're basically saying that software engineers beat marketing, rock, paper, scissors. And we've seen so many travel companies, I think of Hipmunk, and it is a Metasearch company that has a pretty good product, and it really wasn't able to break through because it had such a marketing disadvantage. But you're saying that shouldn't be the case, that don't make Google rich, you could win with technology.
Yeah, I think the big problem in online travel is one of frequency. So, there was a certain point in Skyscanner's journey where I suddenly went, hang on, our most loyal user might have used us today and said, I'm definitely coming back next year. And that's not a great recipe. Internally, I say, if you're into building software, don't go work for myfuneral.com. People only use the checkout process once. So it's not like a messaging app where you're using the software every single day, every single minute even. So the frequency is a problem. But then you have to start thinking of ways to get around that. But overall, I think we see very regularly in the internet economy that all else being equal, the better software company wins, which is, doesn't mean the only jobs are software. I'm overhead. I don't build software now. But it seems to play out.
There's probably a lot of startups that would disagree with you. Oh, we had the greatest product, we were the best thing, but nobody knew about us.
You can build great software that people don't want. I would certainly agree with that. It's so. Yeah, it requires. It's the whole sphere. I think the pirate metrics: acquisition, activation, retention, resurrection, and revenue. Those pretty much apply to every business, certainly in the internet economy.
Right. Your best friend forever, Steve Hafner of Kayak, told me a few weeks ago that you're on the road to becoming an online travel agency. And he says they've looked at it, but they're not doing it. So
What's that saying about a hammer? You know, if the tool you got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I think saying something more about kayak, perhaps.
Meanwhile, Jane's son of C-Trip told me that you're in the process of hiring 20 customer service personnel, and that might adversely impact your profitability for the next 6 months or whatever. So why, if you're not becoming an OTA and you're not becoming a booking site because the airlines would be handling their own customer service in facilitated bookings, why are you hiring all these customer service people?
Because people always look to a two-sided marketplace for support. They do right now. We have customer service people working for us right now, and we'll hire more.
Doing what? I don't understand. What
people write in, say, so-and-so partner has not given me a ticket when they said it was £200, and now they're charging me 220.
So you don't just refer to the airline?
Well, we do that, and we help resolve the problem.
How large a customer service team do you have?
It's about 10, 15.
Okay. So you're going to be doubling it, basically.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do more than that over time. Mobile changes things. You know, we're at over 60% mobile now, and that's a more intimate experience. The facilitated booking is flowing through really well, so it just leads to greater connection to the service. In the long distance future, we'll be a personal travel assistant, and you'll be interacting with a bot and in exceptional cases with a person all the time. So that's the direction of travel, I think. And that's another way that China is a leading indicator. The consumer in China expects to have instant and real-time communication if they need it with most services that they use. And I would say that's a leading indicator there.
So what are you guys doing with bots and artificial intelligence, voice search, doing a lot of experimentation, implementation? What's up?
Yeah, so I think one of the interesting ones is on Alexa, but the Skype bots as well. At the moment, we're very definitely experiencing the valley of hype. So you see a big, you know, if you're not a bot company, you're about to go bust type hype levels, and then everybody's kind of gone feeling a bit embarrassed about did we ever think bots were important? And then we'll get to the middle ground, which is if you look at customer service software, it's going more and more that way. It's entering the home via Google Home and Alexa. So I think apps are still taking over to an extent that HTML-friendly people still are coming to terms with. But after that will come ambient computing, and that's all about unstructured inputs and context of where you are. So, you know, London City is now pegged as the most likely airport that I'm interested in right now because that's the closest one. So I see it as what's coming after apps.
And how does that change? You know, we're talking about, you know, you helping airlines doing more merchandising, the look and feel of the booking. How does artificial intelligence change that? Does that make it that less important?
No, I think it's really important. I think the way it changes things is, up until now, suppliers like airlines and hotel companies, they kind of see, they've got their own website, and that's first party, and everything else is third party, and they don't like it. They have to live with it. But that isn't sustainable. I mean, at some point, suppliers have got to choose who is a good third-party channel and who is a poor one. and they've got to make their decisions, and actually, instead of trying to treat every channel identically, they've actually got to choose who they want to succeed. And I would, in a self-interested way, articulate, we're doing it in the supplier's interests, and that they should prefer us, because we've done that since the start of Skyscanner, and we will do that continuing in the future.
Do airlines really want to cede more control to a Metasearch site? I mean, you see Ryanair fighting with all these, with lastminute.com and Expedia. I don't believe they're fighting with you. But why would an airline in this day and age want to cede more control to you? We see hotels, pushing direct booking.
Because direct booking allows you control over what it is you're selling. And you're reliant on technology already. The question is, which technology providers, which marketplaces do you want to bet on, and which ones do you want to deprecate? Betting on a sector, well, you can have a view on that, but then there's participants within it that you can decide whether you like the way they operate or not. You can look to have long-term commercial agreements that reflect that balance of interests. So there's no getting away from the fact that someone in China that wants to do an intra-European flight, they need some way of discovering how to get from London to Helsinki, say. And that will be an online service. So, currently, the alternatives are very expensive.
Talk a little bit about the competitive landscape. So we have the Priceline groups in the process of acquiring the Momondo group, including Cheap Flights. How's that going to impact you? Where do you see the biggest opportunities?
I think I worry or look at what the horizontal platforms, the really big internet companies, are doing, because they are trying to own the consumer and act as a gateway, a monetized gateway to every other company. And so I think that's one of the beauties of apps, is that you can have a direct relationship with the customer. In terms of local or specific sector competition, I'm less focused on what they're doing. I think we've got to, the number one bottleneck is our roadmap of product features, etc. And there will always be things that other people are working on, but
what about Google? Are you feeling their impact in terms of flights in Europe?
A little bit, but I think they're certainly increasing in impact in Europe. So that is worrying, but it's not like it's an overnight thing. So we just got to keep doing what we do.
Just another day in the life. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dennis.